Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
Bam! We're rolling. It's Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, sipping on some whiskey, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. Tonight's episode 31, and the big game is on Sunday. So for tonight, we're going to do Name That Stadium, hit the news from this past week from around the league, and then we're going to spend probably the vast majority of the show giving a preview of the Super Bowl. You know, what are some of the things that we've been watching and hearing about and things that we think are important in this game? And then last but not least, we'll do our question of the week and wrap things up. So, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
Going good. How's it going with you?
It's good, man. I'm glad it's Friday. I'm excited that the Super Bowl is upon us. I am also sad at the same time because it just like every year seems like it goes by too fast, man.
Yeah, I know the feeling. But
Okay,
hey, they've made it to the Super Bowl somehow.
that's true. You know, this was a year of uncertainty with the whole COVID thing. You know, I would have thought that we would have had at least some sort of a pause or something that kind of, put everything on hold and made us think what the heck's going to happen. But yeah, they found a way to get through. And I just saw something that they were saying the positive rate of testing was like 0.08% across the league. So I think, they did pretty good with all the different measures that they've had. And it seems like every week you hear people going on the COVID list, but it's a lot of just people that were potentially exposed, not necessarily that came back positive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you had some outbreaks like with like Tennessee, and then you had the Baltimore situation, New England, but I mean, they were able to adapt and change the schedule around, used every day of the week, and got to this point. Although the Chiefs almost messed it up this week, I tell you.
Yeah, I've got some notes about that, but yeah, it looks like those guys might they might end up being clear, but still a factor though because you miss a week of practice, man. That's going into the Super Bowl, you don't want to have that happening. So
Yeah, you don't want that happening. At least like this the offensive lineman, it was the backup offensive lineman, but I mean Robinson, he's like the number four, number five receiver on the team.
yeah, and he's
So
had he's had a lot of splash plays, and then I guess Sammy Watkins, whether he plays, that's up in the air, which would make Robinson even that much more important.
yeah, I'm hearing it's trending towards Watkins playing, but still,
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard he's very optimistic, and who knows what that means, but yeah, it looks like it's trending in the right direction so far.
yeah.
All right, well, hey man, let's hit up name that stadium. So since there's no games this week, but we're still having fun with the segment, we're keeping this going. This is the part of the show, as you can see, James is traveling all around the country. Every week he's been putting a different stadium in the background, and we're just asking our viewers that if you think you know what stadium that is, take a shot, put your guess in the comments section. And if you're the first one to get it right, we'll give you a special shout out in next week's show. I know the off season's coming up, but we're going to keep this thing going, man. And so last week, James was out at NRG Stadium, home of the Houston Texans. And so, James, was there any inspiration behind you picking that stadium for last week?
Well, as I said last week, I thought like one of these big name quarterbacks were going to be traded before the Super Bowl, and if I had to put money on it, I thought it was going to be Watson. I
Hmm.
thought something was going to happen there, so that's why I picked Houston because I thought that was going to be like the huge news of the week.
Gotcha. Well, you had the sequence wrong because you had Ford Field the week before, right? So,
Yeah, exactly.
maybe Houston's coming up next. You were just a week too soon. Well, hey, that's perfect because that leads us right into our recap of the past week. And the first thing I had in my notes was talking about the Matthew Stafford trade, which I think easily was the biggest news of the week. For anybody watching, the Lions traded Stafford to the Rams. In return, we're getting Jared Goff, their third round pick for this year, and then their first round pick in the next 2 years. And so um, Pretty big deal. Everything I've been reading so far, it seems that people are more excited for the Rams. And I mean, hey, it's hard to not be kind of bummed out as a Lions fan. It's another one of these, solid players that we've had on the team for a long time. We just could never get it going. But I've been saying it for a long time. If we're going to have this happen, let's at least trade the guy, get something for him, and it can help us basically turn the corner and hopefully rebuild and get better down the road. It's not a Barry Sanders situation. It's not a Calvin Johnson situation. And so I'm thankful for that. And also, despite all the shit talking I've done about Stafford over the years, I really do wish him well. I mean, I think he was a good guy. I think he's a better than average quarterback. He's not elite, in my opinion. But this is what we wanted, a good situation for him to leave and a good situation for us to get something in return. And I think it worked out. What do you think, man?
Well, when I first thought about it, I wasn't sure about Goff. But the more I think about this trade, the more I really like it from the Lions' perspective, because you can do one of two things. If you have Goff, you have him for the 1 year, and you see what he has. He plays good, but the team's still piss poor. You can probably flip him again and trade him for a pick or two, and then just rebuild. You could even he could it's quite potential that he could be on a different team by the time the season starts.
Yeah, like a Brock Osweiler situation. I
Yeah,
heard about that when they shipped him to Cleveland with the draft pick, and basically Cleveland, it was like a trade and dump situation because they had so much cap space. And
yeah,
I don't, like here's the thing. So everything I've been reading and hearing is that the Lions are genuinely excited to have him. That some of the big name guys in the organization reached out, called Goff personally, expressed that excitement to bring him into town. And I think that makes sense because Holmes, our new GM, was a part of the Rams making Goff the number one pick years back. And but I do like what you're saying. If it doesn't work out, he's good enough that you could still flip him a year from now, and he's young enough too that you're going to get something for him. And so why not give it a shot and see where it goes? I think it's a great move, honestly. I like it. I know his salary that we're picking up is pretty steep, but he's more than serviceable as a starting quarterback. And if the wheels fall off this year, that's okay. We know 21's basically we're blowing everything up anyhow.
yeah, exactly. And on the other side of the trade for Stafford, like I love the Rams situation for him. I think like if you look at McVay's offense, and it's basically the same offense that's run in Green Bay, and you have somebody that can actually throw the ball, that offense can excel. I mean, Goff can, but he was inconsistent. Stafford's more consistent, and you what to expect from him from week to week.
Yeah, and one of the big knocks on Goff this year was just that something was going on. He was hesitant to throw the deep ball, and it was driving McVay nuts. And on the flip side, Stafford, he has a tendency to throw the deep ball. And I've read some reports that that was one of the things that really impressed the Rams and why they like Stafford. I'm hesitant. I think it's a great scenario for him. He's going to a contender. I've already heard a ton of people talking Super Bowl, and you never know. I mean, they have a shitload of talent on both sides of the ball. But I will say this, you know, Stafford has gotten lucky over the years with Calvin Johnson bailing him out on those deep passes. Recent years, he's had Kenny Galladay bailing him out. Marvin Jones is even really good at going up and getting the ball. And so I just wonder when I look at their receivers, who's going to go and do that because Cooper Kupp's not that possession kind of guy. Uh, you know, I, I'm sure it'll work out. I just, it's, I'm gonna temper my expectations a little bit. That's all I'm getting at.
Yeah, and but also with Stafford, if you look at his career in Detroit, the only time they made the playoffs, he had like a top 10 defense, and you put top 10 defense on the other side, which helped him out a lot at the quarterback position because he didn't have to do really thrive as much. And
True.
you look at the Rams defense, and that defense is top 5, if not top 3 defenses in the league. So offensively, I mean, you have to score what, like 20, 25 points a game to win.
Yeah, and they've got a solid running game. We saw that this year. They definitely have weapons. They've got receivers, they've got tight ends. They can make it work. And really, it does line up well because, Stafford now has a change of scenery. He has that extra motivation to come out and kick some ass. He's getting what he wanted, and, he's going to do everything he can to make them believe that it was the right thing to do. And so, like I said, I wish him well. I think it was a good separation for both sides, and so, good for him. If he gets a ring, yeah, I'm going to be a little bit bummed out, but we know he was never going to get it here, so what's it matter?
Yeah.
You know?
The funniest story of the week about the trade was apparently you had like all the teams that were inquiring or offering stuff for Stafford. The one team he went to the lines and said, "Don't trade me there," was New England, and you know who's back in New England right now?
No,
Patricia.
oh, because yeah, but so I heard Patricia's got like a front office job now, and so he's not going to be on
I
the field, but
I I heard, but I heard a little bit differently. I heard he's going to slide into like a coaching role, like a defensive coach
okay.
such thing. But still, like Stafford didn't want anything to do with New England. That was like his
Yeah.
only team. Don't trade me to New England. You can trade me wherever else you want.
That's interesting. I didn't hear that, but wow, that's I mean, I know that they definitely did not buy into the New England way in Detroit, so I guess that would make sense. Why go to it in New England itself?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, hey, so talking quarterbacks, the next guy I got on my list here is Carson Wentz. There have been reports this week that the conversations are starting to pick up about teams possibly making a trade for him, which we've talked about this a few weeks ago. It's a tough pill to swallow for the Eagles since they just extended him in June of 2019. But if they think Hurts is going to be the future, then it makes sense to try and get something done. And Indy is obviously in the discussion because of the connection with Frank Reich. I think that, my opinion is Carolina maybe is picking up the phone because we heard that they were heavily involved in the Stafford talks and it didn't work out. And they've talked about being aggressive going after Watson. But if Houston doesn't budge, they're going to have to look at some of these options before they're gone. I just wonder with Carolina, with how bad Wentz was this year. And, I know that Bridgewater wasn't like some game changer, but I thought he was efficient and he was a good game manager. I don't know. I wouldn't go crazy if I was Carolina because I don't think you're getting a huge upgrade going from Bridgewater to Wentz unless you're getting Wentz a couple years ago when he was just like lighting shit up, which was that a fluke? Who knows? I don't know. I got to believe he's still got it in him, and this was just a bad year, but you never know. And then I think the last two teams out there, we were talking about this just last week doing our quarterback carousel. Chicago, I'm sure, is probably in the mix. They're looking at all these quarterback options. And then maybe even the Patriots. They could be another guy. If they think it's going to be a value, they might go after it. I'm not sure that you can say that with Wentz because he's got a pretty hefty contract, kind of like Goff did coming here. But, that's just kind of what I've been hearing, man. How about you?
So the couple interesting thing, like you mentioned Carolina. Carolina offered, I think they have the 8th pick this year, and plus a couple other picks for Stafford.
Oh, I didn't hear
From what
that.
I heard, and when Detroit turned it down, one thing that tells me is they're looking at more of a longer rebuild in Detroit, but Carolina is definitely looking to move on from Bridgewater, whether it's probably possibly Garoppolo in San Francisco is on the outs. The latest, actually, a mock draft I saw had San Francisco drafting a quarterback this
Yeah,
year,
I
had
heard that.
Trey
Yeah.
Lance. And then but you also have Denver as a possibility because Denver offered their first round pick, I heard, for Stafford as well.
You called that way early that they were going to go after him.
Yeah, and it was like Denver, Chicago, Washington, and Carolina offered their first round pick this year plus for for Stafford, which I found interesting that there was that much, but then the Lions went for future picks
Yeah.
because I think that gave a little bit more value. Plus, they're getting a quarterback back to see what he has.
Yeah,
But
and with the Lions, we were talking, messaging back and forth, just trying to kind of figure out what is the true value of the picks because they're future picks and you got to discount them. And, so they're not, and plus you're expecting the Rams to be good, so they're late first round picks likely. My whole thing looking at it is that, you definitely want to consider that in the package. But the positive thing is that this is a very strange year when it comes to the draft and how much film you have on these guys to scout them. And so I'm totally cool with the first round picks being in those future years when we're going to have maybe some more normalcy and a better opportunity to make the most out of those draft picks. I just hate to like swing and miss because it's just an abnormal year and you can't really get a good read on these guys for this year's draft potentially.
yeah, and but back to Carolina, like I don't know where they're going to end up with who they're going to end up with that quarterback, but I think it's stupid to completely mortgage their future to get the quarterback because
Oh yeah.
Bridgewater's a serviceable quarterback, and that team needs to have a lot more pieces that they need. But an interest like I keep hearing popping up the McCaffrey plus a couple first round picks to Houston for Watson, which is crazy. Who would have thought last year coming into the season, or even coming into the season, that Carolina would be so willing to move on from McCaffrey? But that just shows was Mike Davis
Oh
and
yeah.
shows that he showed what he could do, and they're like, well, do we really need McCaffrey?
Yeah, I think that they think their offense is so versatile with they can make it work with almost any running back. And, you know, the contract they got McCaffrey in is definitely expendable if they can find a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough. I mean, we talked about it. Would Houston go for that after they just did the trade for David Johnson? And, it's kind of like, man, do they really want to go around like that again? Because their fan base is already pissed about the last time. And now you're going to lose Watson and get a running back in return. It's tough, man. McCaffrey's been great, but I agree with you. If I'm Carolina, I would just hold tight. I'd use those picks. I'd put some pieces around Bridgewater. I think their offense was exciting enough this year that if they make the defense a priority, that team could have a significant improvement just off of that. And so, like, don't go crazy on the offense. You don't need to. You got everybody there. I mean, yeah, you can, get some stuff here and there if you want, but, the defense for them is the priority, in my opinion.
Yeah, and on the other side too, like I mean, they have the eighth pick, so one of the top four quarterbacks probably, based on where I'm seeing mock
Drops to
drafts
them.
go,
Yeah.
would drop to him. Like I mean, I've seen Trey Lance going to San Francisco, which has the pick after Carolina. I mean, you could pick Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance is gonna be a stud quarterback, and you're not trading away everything to get him. And he's at worst he's Carson Wentz 2.0.
Yeah, and you could let him ride the pine behind Bridgewater until you're confident that he's ready to go. And so,
Yeah,
yeah, because I've heard a lot about Lance being like the most raw of the first round prospects. And so, I think that's a perfect scenario. You have a seasoned veteran in front of him that can hold down the fort until the guy's ready. And whenever you think that time is, you pull the trigger and you go with it.
exactly.
All right, so sticking on the quarterback trend here, I got a few more I want to talk about. Josh Allen is next on my list. Stephon Diggs came out recently. Maybe it was earlier today, even. I'm not entirely sure, but basically calling on voters to make Josh Allen the MVP for this season. And I went and looked at some of the stats, did some digging because we've been talking about Rodgers has just had a phenomenal year, and so I was looking at it. Allen ended up being fifth in passing yards, fifth in TDs. And he had some yards on the ground and some yards, or some rushing TDs. It really wasn't as much as I thought. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I mean, there was guys like Cam Newton and other people, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson. There was a lot of guys ahead of him in the rushing category, which I was kind of surprised about. But he did really pass the ball a lot more this year. But the bigger thing is, I understand Diggs is backing his quarterback. I just don't see how you pass up Aaron Rodgers when the dude had 48 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. And beyond that, I was looking at the quarterback ratings. Rodgers had a fucking 121.5 quarterback rating this year. The next closest guy was Deshaun Watson at 112.4. That's just a freaking huge gap, man. And I know Allen had a great year. It was awesome, and hopefully he stays on this trajectory. But this was Rodgers' year to win it, man. Like nobody could even touch him this year, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree. Like from what I'm hearing also on it, a lot of voters are saying that they voted Rodgers as the MVP, and then they voted Allen as the Offensive Player of the Year, which
Okay,
makes sense.
spread the love. Yeah,
Yeah, because not necessarily MVP doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best offensive player, best defensive player. It just means you're the most important.
hmm
And if you look at what Green Bay did this year, that was all because of Rodgers. I mean, they didn't support him in the offseason. They didn't get him weapons. I mean, what he just had Devontae Adams, and their first two draft picks was his. I'm sorry, not his backup, the backup to his backup,
yeah,
and a third string running back. Like,
yeah,
I mean, they didn't go out and get the pieces to put around him, and he still led them to the NFC Championship game, had a chance to win the NFC at home, and I mean, he had a phenomenal year. I hate saying it because I mean, he's in Green Bay, but I mean, okay, so he didn't have as many yards as Josh Allen. You still can't. He had five interceptions he threw, and two or three of them were in the Tampa Bay game.
yeah. I mean, just 48 touchdowns, man. I mean,
Yeah,
super efficient. I will say this, and I'm not like this is not arguing with you by any means, but I was actually impressed with AJ Dillon at the end of the year as they were getting him more involved in the offense. And this just kind of goes to my love of, those just fucking power running backs, man. He's the big guy bulldozing his way through. And I think that like, it's a classical kind of thing when, you got a good team, you want to be able to salt away the clock at the end of the game, just like banging and bruising, grinding them down. And I think that he is that guy for them. But I also think, Aaron Jones has been a great running back. We're going to see what happens with him in the offseason. They still got Jamal Williams. I don't know that AJ Dillon's necessarily ready to be like the workhorse back for that team, but he did show some flashes that I liked personally.
yeah, he showed some flashes, but and it was late in the year. At the beginning of the year, like I mean,
Yeah, he wasn't even
their
on the
run
map.
was abysmal.
Yeah, and honestly, it was still when you looked at the fact that they had Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, it really was kind of like a redundant pick. It's like, dude, you need receivers, you need pieces on defense. You just burned your top two picks on people that really aren't necessary for your squad. It was, in my opinion, poor decision making by their team. But I was just saying there was something that came out of it that I liked with AJ Dillon. But they totally did need to draft that guy.
Yeah, totally. Then I mean, you had Aaron Jones who played 14 games, had over 1,000 yards, and then AJ Dillon. I mean, yeah, he played in 11 games. He didn't even have 300 yards rushing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
It all
he had
kind of came
100
down to
yards
the end of the year.
more, 100 yards more rushing than Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it's yeah. No, he definitely. It was a slow roll, but he was doing a little bit of that bulldozing at the end of the year, which is what I liked. Um, all right, so the quarterback trend here. The next guy that I wanted to bring up, Jameis Winston, was in the news recently. Saints are talking about wanting to bring him back. I'm just wondering, is that them kind of keeping the flame alive in case Breeze retires because that's still hanging out there. And if that's the case, we'd be looking at a potential, Winston Taysom Hill combo because, with the contract Taysom Hill has, I think he's pretty much locked in for next year. And obviously, we know Sean Payton loves that guy. I'm just wondering what kind of package can this team even put together to get Winston? Like you're basically saying, hey, I don't know. It spurs my thought because you can't really give him starting quarterback money because their cap situation is just like totally fucked. And could you give him something that's attractive enough for him to come in and potentially be the backup behind Hill, or at least get backup money when he might actually have a market with all this kind of quarterback craziness right now?
Yeah. So I actually heard Sean Payton on one of the sports channels I listened to earlier this week, and from the conversation they had about Winston, Sean Payton loves Winston. Sean Payton, I mean, he might be just blowing smoke, like but Payton said stuff along the lines of like, he could totally thrive in their style offense, et cetera, et cetera. But a couple things that really impressed me about it was he was the first one to try to cheer the guys up in the locker room if they like, try to rally them or try, like, he was the first one to step up, and which is amazing considering the players they have on that team. But he
Yeah,
was the one right there at the door to the locker room trying to talk the guys up as they were going to the locker room at halftime
good
and
leadership. Yeah.
stuff like that. And that really impressed me because that's not what I heard of the Winston in Tampa.
Yeah, the old Jameis, that just was seemed like the selfish, me kind of guy and reckless at that on the field with all the turnovers he had. But hey, maybe the change of scenery kind of lit a fire under him, and he's turning a new leaf.
Yeah, but and just stuff like that. But I could tell how. I mean, yeah, Sean Payton could have been like just blowing the smoke and really acting well in the interview, but he seemed to really love Jameis Winston too.
So then it's a matter of can they actually bring him back
Yeah,
because their cap is so messed up. And if they bring him back, are they bringing him back to be the starter? Because then you're talking a whole nother pay grade that it just makes it that much harder for them to get him.
yeah, and I think also it depends on some of these other quarterback situations that occur on whether there's a market for him. I think somebody will definitely want to sign
Oh,
him
I
based on what I'm hearing.
yeah, I 100% do. And honestly, maybe this is just me being kind of foolish off the cuff here, but I think Chicago is a great landing spot for Jameis Winston if they can't get the quarterback that they want at this point. They wanted Stafford, they didn't get him. I highly doubt they're going to have a shot at getting Watson. And so then you start talking about who's left. Maybe they get Wentz. Like I think that they could get Winston. You're talking without having to trade him because the dude's a free agent. And, you know, it just, you wonder, like with the way Trubisky finished the year, is Winston going to be that much better? I don't know. The dude has an arm. He definitely can light it up. Maybe he'll be a perfect fit in Nagy's offense, but, I see that as being a good consolation prize for the Bears. I guess that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. One thing I could see for Winston is I could see if if Belichick strikes out on like some of these value trades trying to get, I could see Belichick bringing a player like Winston in, and
Yeah, I could see that. I wonder, it would be an adjustment because Winston likes to throw the ball deep, and the Patriots, their offense is all quick timing, shorter passes, and then they drop the deep bomb every now and then. And that could be good because that hopefully would cut down on his turnovers. We could see a whole new Winston, man.
yeah. And then maybe if Belichick does bring Winston, then you could finally settle the debate of who is more important, Belichick or Brady, because
Yeah,
yeah,
because obviously
Brady
without
down in
Winston, they went
Winston's
to the
old
Super
team.
Bowl. I know,
Yeah.
but they did a lot more to that team than just make the quarterback swap.
Oh, I know.
So
I
But it
I
is
was
funny. Yeah.
I hate that debate because it's like I had heard some I forget I think it was like Sal Palantonio or something talking on one of the sports talks and just like tracing back like the Belichick like coaching tree
Oh yeah.
lineage, and it's like not going forward from Belichick, but like Belichick learned from Parcells, who learned from this person, who learned from this person, and it's like General McAllister or something like that. Some like I forget who it was, but some like random like general that taught like the first person in like the tree and mentored him, and it's just like it just goes all the way back to that. It's like wow, that's ridiculous.
Well, and I mean, here's the thing. It's I believe both of them are like arguably the best at their respective positions in the NFL. And it was
Yeah,
just like, just like a fluke fucking chance that they both ended up together for as long as they did. But I think Belichick would have still had a lot of success, and I think Brady still would have had a lot of success. It just happened that with them being together, that synergy created like record-breaking success for the Patriots.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so here's my next one, and I'm actually a little more excited about this one than the Jameis Winston one. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's announced that he wants to come back next year, which obviously adds another wrinkle to this quarterback carousel situation. It's pretty new that I've heard of it anyhow. But I tell you what, man, the first thing that went into my mind was if Alex Smith doesn't come back for Washington next year, they need to go out and get Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think he would be a perfect fit for what that team needs.
Yeah, I that is a good fit. I was thinking about that about him earlier. He was on the same sports show. Like had Palantonio, had Sean Payton, had Stephon Diggs, had everybody had Fitzpatrick on, and he was Fitzpatrick was like they were talking about like where you gonna wind up or whatever, and is and he's like, well, there's 32 teams in the league. I played for 8 of them, so I got 24 more to go.
Yeah, and you could go back to one of the old ones. They might want you back.
Yeah, I mean Fitzpatrick. Like the reason why teams keep signing Fitzpatrick, like he plays good in spurts, but from what I'm hearing about him is he's like a second coach on the
Oh yeah,
sideline.
super smart guy. I mean, he's a Harvard guy. So he's got a brain, and he could definitely be part of any team's sort of like succession planning at the quarterback position. You bring him in, you pair him with a young guy. He can help groom that young guy till he's ready. But with the way quarterbacks are playing, yeah, I'm sure he has another year or two in the tank. I'd
Hmm.
give it a shot, especially if you're a team like Washington, where you want high character guys. He's capable. He's definitely high character, and like you said, he can get it done in spurts. So I think that'd be a nice fit for them.
Yeah, I think it's funny though is I didn't realize this, but apparently the only scholarship offer that Fitzpatrick had coming out of high school was to Eastern Washington,
Okay.
and he's had a 16-year NFL career. Had one
Yeah.
scholarship offer.
Yeah. Well, maybe he was a late bloomer, man.
Yeah.
And I love the beard. I mean, you got to give him some credit for that. I'm bummed out I
Yeah.
had to trim mine before I even got there, but that's life. Okay, so the next topic I had, we had the Senior Bowl. We talked a little bit about it last week going into it, and I didn't watch the game. I caught some of the highlights, which is always cool, even though, like, the winner of the Senior Bowl doesn't really matter. It's all about trying to find those gems. And I'll be honest, I have not had enough time to read up on it yet, but so far, what I have seen, it's kind of bummed me out a little bit because all I keep hearing about is quarterbacks, skill players, and that's fine and dandy, but like every year for the Senior Bowl, it seems like that's the time when I find these under the radar guys, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers, safeties, people that don't normally get the spotlight, and it seems like none of them really popped out this year. I did hear about one or two offensive linemen, one or two defensive linemen. I heard about a safety, but like not, I didn't get like that pop that you normally get with a guy at the Senior Bowl. And so maybe I've not done enough digging yet, but like I was telling you last week, man, I do like that event because normally you find some gems that you can keep an eye on for the draft, guys that turn out to be difference makers in the NFL.
Yeah, which is which is interesting with the Senior Bowl. All I've heard about is Mac Jones.
Yep. Yeah, he's gotten a ton of the spotlight. Yep. They're saying, yeah, he's that fifth first round quarterback now.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, I had to respond to the wife. She texted me she needed to grab something out of my office, and I'm like, I'm busy.
It's all good, man.
So so yeah, like I mean, I hear all I've heard about is Mac Jones, and that's it. I haven't heard anything else about the Senior Bowl.
Well, as I get more info, I'll keep you posted. Definitely come draft time, I'll be all over it. Like, okay, here's the guys that I started tracking, working their way through, and then you see what they do in their workouts, and the combine's going to be a whole different thing this year. But yeah, once again, this all kind of goes back to like the trade that the Lions make and why I'm totally cool with those first round picks being down the road because this could be a very tough year to evaluate talent.
Yeah, it's going to be a very tough year to evaluate the talent. You don't have like you have such inconsistent amount of games, inconsistent um everything on what the leagues did, what the teams did. Some teams didn't even play. You had
Yep.
a lot of opt outs. So it'll be interesting to see how they weed through it.
Yeah, there was a
But
lot of moving parts, man. Yeah. And
yeah,
and honestly, if I'm the Lions, man, I might even think about trading our first round pick from this year, trade it for next year and get some more picks out of it. And like really make next year your home run draft if you're Brad Holmes. Just a thought.
yeah. One thing though, since you mentioned college football, that I was super excited about is apparently EA Sports is bringing back
Oh,
um,
dude, I'm so glad you brought this
NCAA
up, man.
football.
Yeah, dude, I still play the one from 2013 or whatever it was, the last one that they had with uh I want to say it was Denard Shoelaces, Denard Robinson on the cover.
Yeah, I
And
think so.
yeah, dude, I love that game. I always take Central Michigan and build them into like some powerhouse program, which would never happen, but it's cool to do it in the game. And but it's tough because they have such a small stadium, it doesn't get exciting. But that's I also run one with the Spartans because they got a bigger stadium, so it's. But yeah, I'm
Yeah,
pumped up for that, man. I'm super excited for that. It's been a long time. And
yeah,
the thing, not to, sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, like the thing that I liked about that game so much more than Madden, and not necessarily more than Madden, just different than Madden, is because it's college football. You're constantly churning the roster, whereas like in Madden, you can like lock guys down for like these 6, 7 year contracts sometimes, and I don't know. It's just like after a while, to me, it's like you really got to work the roster, or it gets to be like the same thing over and over again. Whereas NCAA football, man, like every season, you've got like so many new guys on the team that it's like a whole new deal that you're going after. You got to try a different offense, or you got to try a different defense, and you got to like really work it a lot more in that game, man.
yeah, exactly. It was a great game. I was bummed when they got rid of it, but I saw that earlier this week, and I pumped. But who knows when it's going to actually be? But they actually confirmed it. I mean, it's been rumored since it went away that they're going to somehow try to bring it back. But
Yep.
now that they actually confirmed it, that they are bringing it back, that's exciting.
Hell yeah, man. I'm pumped. And not to like take it from a turn from all that happiness to something sad here, but I did have one last thing on the news from the week was just I'm sure you probably heard some of the updates about Marty Schottenheimer, former longtime coach in the NFL, many years, 77 years old, battling Alzheimer's. He's been moved to hospice. This is one of these tough situations. I never knew the guy personally, but obviously we wish his family well. This is a tough time, not an easy thing to go through. And I've had some family members deal with a similar kind of situation, and I know what they're going through is tough. And so, you know, not to end the week on a sad note here with that kind of news. I just thought it was worth mentioning because he was a big name guy for a long time in the NFL, man.
Yeah, that is sad, and I'll kind of flip it up a little bit after this and end it on a happier note. But yeah, it's tough to see when like these guys like you watch and you kind of almost idolize them on either on the field or as coaches, and then they start going through shit and life catches up. It's like you always forget that these people are human.
Oh yeah, and it kind of like along those same lines, man. It's funny because forever we've been looking up to these guys, and it's like a game that we love, we like watching, and now it's like all of a sudden I'm watching it and I'm like, wow, I'm older than like almost everybody in the league, and it's like when the hell did that happen? Like it just
Yeah,
goes by that fast, man. It's crazy.
yeah, exactly. That I hate to think about that.
All right, so bring us back up, James. I'm sorry. I just, I thought it was noteworthy.
All right. The Lions coaching hires. We talked about Campbell,
Oh
and
yeah.
we had talked about how they needed to bring in experience around him. Number one, hiring Deuce Staley. That was a no-brainer. He was in the running for the Philadelphia job. Everyone was surprised he didn't get the Philly job.
Yep.
Um, he's he was highly respected in that locker room. Everybody loved him as a coach. Um, on top of that, the offensive coordinator, Anthony Lynn.
Yep.
While I was down on Lynn, the reason I was down on Lynn, it had nothing to do with his actual coaching of the offense or defense with the Chargers. It was the fact that they didn't have the situational awareness,
Yeah.
and that comes from the head coach. As a offense coordinator, I thought Anthony Lynn is good. I
Great
think
hire.
is a great hire. I mean, there's other little things that they hired, but I just seeing those two moves to give Dan Campbell
Some experience behind him.
some experience around him it's phenomenal, and I'm super excited about this coaching staff. Plus, they got Brunell as the quarterbacks coach,
Yeah, I
which
like that one. Yeah.
I like that. I like
Did they bring in like Dom Capers as like a defensive
yeah,
assistant or something, a specialist? Yeah.
yeah, senior defensive assistant. I mean, it's just they're putting a staff together that makes me excited. They have a couple of guys that are like unknowns, but just like looking at their staff, like Lynn, Brunell, Staley. I even was starting to read up about the new defense coordinator who I forgot they hired before Campbell.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, Aaron Glenn,
Yeah.
but Aaron Glenn was a coach with Campbell in New Orleans.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like their defensive backs coach. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was their secondaries coach, and he had been their secondaries coach for 5 years, but I mean he had a decent career. I mean he played in the NFL for 14 seasons, had where is it? In those 14 seasons, had 41 total interceptions. I mean, that's
It's
with
pretty
six
good, man.
TDs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's not that bad, and that's with the Jets, Houston, Dallas, and then the last 2 years he only played 5 and 4 games. But I mean he's experienced. He's been coaching for a decade almost now. So I mean I think I'm excited to see what this coaching staff um, can do, and I like the pieces that are falling around Dan Campbell to help him out and kind of guide him. Although some of these pieces, a year, 2 years, 3 years, would may go elsewhere. But the ones that I see possibly going elsewhere, like getting head coaching jobs or stuff like that. I mean that those would also be extra draft picks for the Lions because the like Anthony Lynn, I could see him getting a second chance and as a head coach. I could see Deuce Staley getting a chance as a head coach and in the NFL, and both those they're minorities, so they fall under the third round compensatory pick for developing the assistants, the minority assistants.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%, man. I think it's been a great start to this new regime. And, I'm not planning on anything good really happening in 21, but I think that they've got the pieces. Now they got to go out, they got to get their guys, they got to get their systems in place. And, maybe they surprise us and they do something crazy like the Dolphins did this year. But I'm not going to hold my breath because that's like the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, exactly. But if you look at the Dolphins, like last year the Dolphins they showed they had that fight and they had that grit. And it was they because they had the right coach.
Yeah.
You you get the right coach and then you start building that team and it's the turnaround from being shitty to being a playoff team or even a contender. It's not that long of a path if you have the right coaching staff there.
Hey, that's the hope, man. My fingers are crossed.
Hmm.
All right. Well, hey, did you have anything else, or are you ready to move on and talk the
I'm
big game?
ready to move on. I just wanted to hit those points about the Lions coaching staff because that's what we talked about that they needed, and it looks like they're doing
They're
it.
getting it done, man. Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay, so Super Bowl time. The big game is here this Sunday. I'm pumped. I'm sure you are as well. We're hearing storylines aplenty. Mostly, age versus beauty, passing the torch, and like you were telling me the one last week, like goat versus mini goat or whatever the heck it was, and whatever way you want to look at it, I think we're all expecting a damn good game. And, I'll tell you, just the other day, I updated my model, which we've been doing for our picks all year. And, I know that you already spanked me in the playoffs, but I was still updating my model just to see how it looked. And I did a full A to Z update. I went in, I regraded every player and every coach. And, even as the week has gone on, because of some of this COVID stuff and the news about Antonio Brown now being a full participant, I've had to do a lot of updates. And I'll tell you what, a few days ago, my model had Kansas City by zero point 0.2 points, which is an extremely tight spread. After making my most recent adjustments today, Tampa Bay is now favored by 0.66 points in my model. And, one of the things that was a new factor, which I guess is debatable, but it's the home field advantage. And I put in the smallest factor for Tampa Bay. And I just kind of had to do it. And, I know we got the COVID year. There's not going to be a lot of fans at the game. And then, you look at the flip side, Kansas City, they've dominated whether they've been on the road or at home, and they were just in the Super Bowl last year. But I did come across a nugget, and I don't have the exact stats because I was watching a little bit of NFL Network and I caught it. They were saying that something to the effect that the opposing kicker has something around a 5% drop in their kick percentage in Tampa Bay versus all the other stadiums in the league. And I think that could be an advantage on its own. I did hear that, they're not going to do the cannons in Tampa Bay because, they got to make it like an unbiased thing, but it still helps that it's their home stadium. They didn't have to travel anywhere. There's some familiarity there. So like I said, I gave them just kind of like the tiniest little home field advantage. Uh, you know, it's intense, man. It's intense. I mean, both these teams, I'm sure, are going to be very comfortable in this game. Kansas City just won it last year. Tampa Bay, obviously, they got Brady, they got Gronk. those guys are going to get everybody on their sideline calm and pumped and whatever they need to do for that game. But it's pretty intense. And so, looking at it, I thought we could kind of maybe divide it up, talk a little bit about each team, and then just kind of see where it flows. Unless you had a different way you wanted to tackle it, man. What are you thinking?
No, that sounds good to me. I don't know how to attack this game. It's at the beginning of the year, this was my Super Bowl matchup. This is looking at everything from day one. When we did all our rankings and started the season out, I had Tampa Bay and Kansas City, and it basically, more or less, kind of played out how I thought it would. I thought there was a couple differences here for who I thought would be a home team in the playoffs, or who I thought what round they would win. But so I'm psyched that I got it right. But I think it's a toss-up game. It's a really interesting game to watch.
Oh, for sure it is. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go with the age before beauty thing, and let's kick it off by talking about Tampa Bay. And so I've got some notes. They're not really in any particular order, but I just started off with the coaching staff. Bruce Arians. Recently, there was a NFL.com article. I believe it was Nick Shook was talking about rating, the most risky coaches in the NFL. Bruce Arians was number 5 on that list. Basically, they were saying that his offense is big time, push the ball down the field, a lot of air yards, not a lot of short passes, get the ball deep. And we talked about that earlier in the year. It was an adjustment that Brady had to make because he was always the opposite in New England. You start short and then you go deep. But then also, Tampa Bay is also the 6th highest blitzing team in the league. And so, it's risky, but I think it makes for exciting football. And I thought that was cool. Other coaching staff information. They got Byron Leftwich as the offensive coordinator. He's an up and coming coach in this league. And Todd Bowles on the defense. Obviously, he's a proven solid defensive coordinator. They got like really good leadership all around at the top. What do you think on the coaching staff, man?
So, I'm sorry, just simply Tampa Bay, or
yeah, I was just going to start with Tampa Bay, and then we could go
okay.
down and do a similar deal with Kansas City next.
I apologize. I don't know what happened. I think I missed something, and then you were just talking Tampa Bay.
It's my Michigan mumble, James. You can just
No,
call it what it is, man.
I had a pop-up stupid ad like come over.
So Gridiron Grinder's not enough to keep your attention, is what you're telling me.
No, I'm trying to pull some quick research. So
Okay.
things are mentioned. So I'm trying to pull it up, and like I was looking for your stat about the
kicking. Yeah, I wish I could
I
find what the actual number was. I know it was more than 5%, which I thought, man, that's significant. Like that's a big difference. And so, I know that, Kansas City, they got Bucker, he's a solid kicker, but when you have that much of a swing, shit, you never know what could happen. It's like Baltimore in that one game in the playoffs where what's his face missed those 2 field goals, and then their punter had that shanked punt. It's like, dude, that could totally jack up your game, man.
Exactly. And so I was trying to find it, see if I could find it while you were talking, and then I had like only heard partial of your plan for it.
Okay.
And then so I was like, let's just go with it, because I didn't want to say something to be like, oh, why don't we do this, and then say the exact same thing. So, like, with the coaching staff in Tampa Bay, like I mean, they have, a lot of NFL experience down there with Bowles and Arians. Obviously, Arians has coached in the Super Bowl before. Obviously, Reed has this is his third time. This is Arian's second time,
Um, well,
third.
I know he was a coordinator with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and then didn't he lead Arizona to the Super Bowl a couple years with
Uh, no,
Wa-
what you're talking about when they had Kurt Warner? No,
yeah.
I think that was before he went to Arizona. I mean maybe look it up. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, why was I thinking that he coached?
For some reason I thought when he went to Arizona, he got Carson Palmer and he was like after the Kurt Warner era. But you know, maybe I'm messing up the timeline.
He went there in 13.
Oh, 13. No, I gotta believe that was before 13. That had to be before 2009
Yeah, it's like
nine-ish or something.
blah 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 NFL.
It was before 2009.
Yeah, it was 8. So
Okay.
what for some reason I was thinking that he was there then, but apparently I was.
But hey, he got to the big game with Pittsburgh as a coordinator, and he's obviously a very confident, commanding coach. So I don't think it's like a stage that's too big for him. You know, I think Byron Leftwich is definitely up and coming offensive coordinator, potential future head coach with everything we've seen from him. And Todd Bowles, he's just been kicking ass on the defensive side for a long time. And I was bummed out it didn't work for him in New York, but he'll probably get another chance at some point because highly respected, highly
Yeah.
respected.
So Bruce Arians as an assistant coach is a two-time Super Bowl champion.
Okay,
So this will be his
both
third
with
as well.
Pittsburgh.
Third as well. Yeah, both with Pittsburgh. What's that? 40 and 42.
Gotcha.
So what? 2005 and
Yeah,
2008.
40 was the one in Detroit, man.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so here's how I
Anyway,
organized my notes. I started with coach, and then I looked at quarterback, receivers, running backs, offense, whatever else, and then I went on to the defensive side of the ball, and then I just kind of had some stats. And so if we kind of go off of my notes, the next thing here is talking about Brady, which it's like shit. What is there really to say about Brady? He's obviously the GOAT. This stage of his career, he finished the regular season ranked third in passing yards. He had 40 freaking touchdowns to 12 interceptions with a quarterback rating of 102.2. It's just like this guy just finds a way to stay in tip top shape and get this shit done, man.
yeah, and I can't specifically recall. Like I recall games where he wasn't 100%, not 100%, where he wasn't like his normal self. He had a little bit dip in in stats for the Super Bowl, but I can't recall a Super Bowl that actually struggled in. Like
Oh, yeah, I don't
the
know
th-
about that. I mean, I know, like, here's the thing, and I've got my notes for this later on, but you know, that that one against the Giants, they held the Patriots to 14 points, and this is in here I'll just spill the beans, but for Kansas City, their defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, he was the defensive coordinator for the Giants the year they shut down the Patriots. They were 18 and 0, like this wildly electric offense, and in the Super Bowl, they held them to 14 points. Huge upset. They ended up obviously 18 and 1 instead of going totally undefeated. But I thought, hey, that's an interesting twist here because Spagnuolo got the best of him once before. Let's see if he can do it again. Now, I didn't actually go back and look at the stats for Brady. He might have had some good passing yards and whatnot in that game, and it just didn't work out otherwise. Yeah,
yeah,
in general, I think you're right. I mean, he's a clutch quarterback, man. That's really what it boils down to. Like maybe the most clutch ever. It's just pretty crazy.
yeah. So it was. Let's see. That was Was it
It was like
7?
2008. It was the 2007 season, so it was the Super Bowl in like, early February or the end of January 2008.
So that year he had two in the Super Bowl, 266 yards and one touchdown.
Yeah, not a bad game, I
Yeah,
mean, it's
like he's only had like before that he only had one game over 300 yards passing in the Super Bowl.
mhm.
Like his general like it's and just starting from his first one and going down, 145 yards, one touchdown, 354, three touchdowns, 236, two touchdowns, 266, one touchdown, 276, two touchdowns, uh, 328, four touchdowns, 466, two touchdowns, 505, three touchdowns, and 262, zero touchdowns.
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
mean
he's solid, and he has had the peaks with, like, I think that one he had 500 yards. They lost that one, I want to say.
yeah, that was the Philly game. They lost 41-33 in that game. And then like his next highest, I mean, was the OT game was the Atlanta game.
Gotcha, gotcha.
So I mean, but he's pretty consistent. It's like you take out his first year, his first Super Bowl appearance, which wasn't was he a rookie? Was it his second season?
I want to say it was his second season, but I'd have to go back and look. It's been a long time since I checked that out.
Yeah, it was his second season. He he played 2000. 2000 was his first. So I mean, he has a solid game or decent game every like he has in 9 Super Bowls he has a total of 6 interceptions.
Yeah, very safe with the football. He's
Yeah,
going to keep the team in the game.
and he averages two touchdowns per game or per Super Bowl,
Yeah, that's
which
legit, dude.
that's legit, and that's also with a game where he had zero.
Yeah. Uh,
I mean, there's nothing about his stats that you can knock.
yep. I mean, hey, he's been there more than anyone. I mean, it's just, and if he wins it, it's number 7, which is more than any franchise has ever won, which is crazy. But it'd be pretty wild, man. So okay, so let's look at some of his weapons. Wide receiver, you got Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, you got Chris Godwin, you got Gronk, you got Cameron Brate at tight end. He's got a very, Scotty Miller. You got like a very solid group of weapons. Mike Evans been crushing it ever since he joined the league. He got another 1,000-yard season this year. Antonio Brown, he came on late because the timing of signing him and his suspension and all that stuff. But, going from like the last like 3, 4 weeks of the year into the playoffs, kind of up until that New Orleans game, he was on fire. And then he got hurt in that last game. And they're saying he's back. He was a full participant. He could be a huge factor in this game. And then you've got Chris Godwin, who this has been a weird year for Godwin because he's had a problem with drops. And there's been a lot of games where they've been saying that he just can't get out of his own head. But he's looked good lately. He had 110 yards against Green Bay. And then, there's always Gronk. Maybe not like heyday Gronk, but the dude still had 600 yards and 7 touchdowns. So he's still a factor. And, when it comes to the big game, he can get it done. And Brady's got that comfort level with him. And so, where some of these guys might have a little bit of nerves, you got to look at a guy like Gronk, and, he's probably going to fare a little better than others. So, plenty of weapons catching the ball.
Yeah, plenty of weapons. One thing I did want to point out is Brate is questionable for the game. He popped up on the injury report today.
Oh, gotcha. I thought I did hear something was going on with him. Yeah.
Yeah, like I thought I wanted to double check it, but because I thought I had read that he was questionable now, and I just verified it that he's listed as questionable. Let me see if I can find his injury because that might be the key to whether I want to say it was a leg injury.
Okay. Well, hey, while you're looking it up, I'll shift it over to running back. And so running
Back
back is
back issues.
oh, back issue. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's usually not a good thing,
Yeah, exactly. So,
especially
but
for
I
a
mean,
tight end.
yeah, but I mean, he still has Gronk, and he still has Evans, who I thought was going to have a little bit of a down year based on what I saw Brady doing in New England and not really pushing the ball downfield.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where Evans excels. I mean, who do you really cover if on the defense? Like you can't focus in on one guy. If you have Antonio Brown who can spread the field and he can get the underneath stuff, you have Evans who can go
Just
deep or
dominate possession guy. Yep.
yeah, dominant possession guys. You have Godwin who I think a lot of his Godwin's issues was didn't I think he had a hand injury early in the season and that might have led to
Okay.
the
Some of the
drops.
drops. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean you can't focus on any guy. Godwin's going to be the underneath guy. Scotty Miller probably is the Edelman role, and then you have Evans and Brown that can go deep. You can't focus on anyone.
No. And you know the thing with Mike Evans, I agree with you. It was the same thing. Earlier in the year, we were wondering how was this going to play out because Brady's never been in this kind of an offense and he's never had that kind of a receiver. You know, the Patriots, it's always been smaller, shiftier, kind of quicker wide receivers, and Evans is like, a 180 of that. But I think it worked out pretty beautifully for the guy, man. He had 1,007 yards, 13 fucking touchdowns. Like they figured out how to make that magic, man.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's just I don't know on either side. I don't know how you guard them. We'll talk about Kansas City later, but it's like who do you focus in on? I think the key to the game is going to be forcing everything underneath and
Yep.
do the little dink and dunks and that's where you need to stop Tampa Bay's offense. But you also have to respect the running game for Tampa Bay with Jones and Fournette.
Yeah, and that's where I was going next. Is that they've got that combo of running backs, which it's been a little bit strange watching this over these last few weeks because Ronald Jones played well all year. He was 12th in the league with 978 yards in the regular season. But there's been talk in some of these last couple games about a sort of like changing of the guard with Leonard Fournette now starting to get favored in this offense. I know Ronald Jones was hurt to start the playoffs, and so maybe that's what it has to do with. But the last two games, you got Fournette with 29 carries, Ronald Jones with 23. Either way, I was saying it just like a week or so ago both these guys been running angry, and I like that shit. I was just talking about it earlier with AJ Dillon. Uh, you know, run angry in that Super Bowl, man. Grind down that defense. It's going to make your offense run a lot more smooth in the second half of that game if you get those guys on their heels.
Yeah, I think part of the thing with Fournette was like kind of a late addition to the
Yeah.
team. It was right before the season, and a lot like Brady. Brady was a late addition, not a late addition, but you didn't have really the regular off season for him. I think as Fournette is getting accustomed to excuse me, is getting accustomed to the offense and what's going on, they're becoming more and more confident in him. I mean, you got to remember, wasn't Fournette like a top five draft pick?
Yeah, I think he was like fourth overall, I want to say.
Yeah. So I mean, he has the talent. It's just he has to get he has to get the confidence of the coaches, which it appears by having to play him, he's earned that. And he was number 4 in 2017.
And
So
the one thing with Fournette that a lot of people forget about is that he can actually catch the ball really well out of the backfield.
mhm.
And you look at his entire career, and even going back to the college days, it's been. I think he really only had like one big year in Jacksonville where they were throwing him the ball, and he caught a fucking shitload of balls, man. And so he can do it. And it's like one of these things that's always out of everybody's minds. Makes me wonder, are we going to see some of that in this game where they're getting him the ball out of the backfield because nobody's fucking expecting it?
Well, I don't think after this postseason, I don't think people are, I wouldn't say people aren't expecting it. I mean, he's the fourth leading receiver on in the postseason on the team. He's right behind Brate. He has 102 yards in 3 games. So I mean, it's been there. It's just I mean, yeah, Godwin has 223, but I mean, still, he has 17 targets, 14 receptions. I mean,
Yeah.
he has more targets than Brate, and that's what Brady does. Is he likes that safety valve of a running back. Ironically, they haven't thrown the ball to Ronald Jones
Yep.
in the postseason, which might be because maybe he can't catch the ball. Maybe he doesn't, because you know how it is with Brady. Once you lose his confidence, you start like really fucking up. He's not going to look at you.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you're right. You know, he had James White all those years in New England, and Danny Woodhead at one point, and just all those little gadget kind of running backs. Fournette, he's more of a bigger back, but he can catch the ball, and so I'm interested to see what happens there. Um, so the next set of notes I had here was just talking about the offensive line for a minute, and I don't have a ton of notes on these guys, but the one guy I do want to point out is the rookie Tristan Wirfs.
Hmm.
Been playing phenomenal, man. This is a guy that I know I had concern with in the preseason. That it's just like, holy cow, you got Brady in here, a guy that this late in his career, you can't be letting him take a bunch of hits, and you've got a rookie in a very critical position on that line. The dude has played amazingly all year. He's
Hmm.
been super highly rated, and that offensive line has like way overperformed this season, man. And so, got to give the dude a little bit of love.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna have or eventually be good, and I thought like when we talked about it, I thought it was a great draft pick when they drafted him. I thought he was perfect um for for them, and I didn't think he would be this good this quick.
Yeah.
Like I thought it would take a little bit more for him to show what we're seeing. I mean, let's just wanted to look at his games.
Yeah, he's been rock solid, man.
Yeah, I just want to he has 4 penalties this year, and he's played 100% of the offensive snaps.
As a rookie, man.
Wow.
It's impressive. I mean, it's like a rare feat to see a guy come out and have this good of a year. And the thing is, he's an offensive lineman, so nobody's giving him love. But, we recognize it because we look a little bit deeper. And we got to give that guy a pat on the back, man. Somebody better be buying this guy a fucking beer.
Yeah. So I thought on on whatever site it is on Football Reference they broke down the um the stats like snap count, sacks allowed, pressures, et cetera, because I wanted to take a quick look at that. But I mean, he hasn't, from what I can remember, I don't remember a time that he let them down.
Oh yeah, no, he's been solid all year. I mean, it's been pretty incredible.
Yeah. So I mean, it's great for a rookie, and I I was surprised that he went as low as he did, kind of when we talked about it, because I remember talking about him saying he should have been top 10.
Yeah, I think he was one of those guys that there was some varying reports on. Some people liked him, some people weren't so sure. some people thought, like you were saying, he was going to need a little bit of time to get up to speed, and but hey, he landed in the right spot, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's good for him.
Oh yeah. All right, so kicking it over to the defense. Just a couple of my notes here. You got their big defensive tackle. I know I don't say his name right, but Vita Vey, however you say it, he's back. Originally was on IR. Nobody thought he was going to make it back for the Super Bowl if they even made the Super Bowl, but he's recovered, supposed to play, could be a big factor for that defense. It's worth noting because similar to Tristan Wirfs with the offensive linemen, these defensive linemen guys don't get a whole lot of credit, but him alongside Ndamukong Suh and JPP, it makes that defensive line very formidable for Tampa Bay. And JPP had 9.5 sacks this year. You go back a level to the linebackers. You got Devin White had 9 sacks. And then in the secondary, shit, man, Sean Murphy Bunting, a pick in every playoff game so far this year. Let's see if he can cap it off and get a fourth, fire up chips. You got Antoine Winfield Jr. back there. I mean, this defense, they got a lot of fucking pieces, man. Levante David, I didn't even mention him yet. And I know that they've not always played that way this year, but this is the biggest game. Let's see what they can bring because they got their toughest opponent right here, right now, man.
Yeah. Well, if you look at it with that defensive front, like, I mean, they confused the shit out of Rodgers, and they beat Rodgers up last week.
Oh yeah.
And it's probably one of this defense, how they're playing this postseason is how I thought this defense would play all year. Yeah, there's a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of bend in them, but I mean they're stepping up. Like, I mean, they're starting to step up, and every week they're playing better and better. And with looking at what they did last week against Rodgers, and then you add Vita Vey in there, I mean that defensive front is just that much better. And
Oh yeah.
I can't say enough about how much I like how they're playing.
Yeah, I'm pumped up. I'm pumped up. Like there's the old saying, defense wins championships. I'm not sure anybody's thinking that in this game. I think we're all expecting a lot of points, but you never know, man. They have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. If anybody has a shot at slowing down Mahomes and company, it's this defense.
Yeah, exactly. But then again, though, with Mahomes, that he's a special
Oh,
quarterback.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I know that, man. And that's what I'm saying. Nobody's expecting this to be a defensive battle. I think everybody's expecting it's going to be, 30 plus points on each side of the ball. But you never know, man. These Super Bowls, it's so hard to predict, man. It is so hard to predict.
Yeah, look at was it 2 years ago?
With the Rams
Yeah,
and the
with the
Patriots?
Rams and the Patriots. It
Yeah.
was like, was there even an offensive touchdown scored in that game?
I'm trying to think back. It
I
was
know the
that
Rams
was
didn't
definitely a
score.
defensive battle, man. Yeah.
I know the Rams didn't score a touchdown. I mean, they only put up 3 points. We already established that Brady didn't.
Yeah. Did they run
Didn't
one in? I don't know.
that's what I was.
I know Gronk had a hell of a catch. I remember he was quiet most of the game, and then he had this like one sweet catch that he just kind of like scooped in, and it was like such a difference maker in that game.
Yeah,
All
there
right, so
was a touchdown scored in the fourth quarter. It was a Sony Michel 2 yard run.
okay,
It was, let me see, about halfway through the fourth quarter.
yeah, just popped one in.
Yeah.
All right, so here's where things get a little interesting in the research that I've done, anyhow. So I went back and I checked the schedules for this year for Tampa Bay and Kansas City, and I found that these guys each had 9 games against common opponents: Carolina, New Orleans, whoever else. I could pull up the list. But I thought it was worth digging into because I wanted to see if there's any kind of like statistical significance that you can glean out of those matchups. Because typically you got an AFC team and an NFC team, and they don't play that many of the same opponents. And so you have a really hard time trying to figure out really who's the better team until they play. This is a unique deal. Not only did they have 9 common opponents, and some of those opponents were duplicated, like Denver, Kansas City played them twice, obviously, but, 9 total games against common opponents. And then they played each other, and it was a close game. It was a 3-point game. But so I wanted to look at this and, point it out because I don't know if we've ever had this much overlap in a Super Bowl matchup. And so on the season, looking at Tampa Bay, they averaged 30.74 points per game. They allowed 22.32 points per game, which gave them an average margin of victory of 8.42 points. However, when you look at the common opponents with Kansas City, they've averaged 35.11 points, allowed 23.22 for a margin of victory of 11.89 points. And so they've scored almost 5 points a game more in those games. They let their opponents score, almost a point more, but their margin of victory has been huge, man. And so I just want to point that out because I'm going to do the same thing with Kansas City once we get through our notes on them. And then I'm going to wrap it up because this ends up being a very key stat for me that I don't think anybody's looking at. And I just think it's worth talking about when we get there. But that's all I had on Tampa Bay for now. Is
So,
there anything else there that you wanted to dig into? I'm sure you got all sorts of notes, man.
so when you look, you say you're not sure if they've had that many common opponents. I would say that statistically, it had to have happened because this is the 14th time that the Super Bowl is a rematch of a regular season game.
Okay.
And so statistically, it depends on when they were. And I didn't go back and look at each and every one of them to see where the rematches were.
Hmm.
But it had to have at least come close to this.
Gotcha.
Especially when you get back, if it was back in the 70s when there was what, like 10 teams. And
Yeah, but I guess going back, because like when did they change the way they do the schedule? You
yeah, and
know.
that's like I I found the stat, but I hadn't had time to fully research it. I had other things
All right,
going
so let's
today.
just say it's interesting, whether it's happened that much or not.
Yeah.
I just,
So
it's the first time I've caught it where there's been that much overlap in the Super Bowl teams. But hey, you want to pop my bubble? That's fine, man. We need some checks and balances on the show, James. I appreciate that.
all right. So Super Bowl rematches from the regular season. You had Seattle Denver in Super Bowl 48. No, that can't be right. Wait a minute.
Yeah, that
That's
was
not.
the one where they just embarrassed Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Seattle just ran a freaking train on them.
Yeah. So let me. Okay. Here we go. I found the article. We can move on, and I will.
You'll peruse through it while I dig into Kansas City.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so flipping it over to Kansas City, similar kind of flow. I started by looking at the coaching staff. Andy Reid, he was number one as the riskiest coach on that list that I was telling you about earlier. Basically, similar, actually. I was actually very surprised that it's for like the same exact reasons as Bruce Arians. His offenses like to push the ball down the field, a lot of air yards. and his defenses like to blitz heavily. They're the fourth highest rate in the league, which is higher than Tampa Bay, sixth highest in the league. We talked a little bit about Steve Spagnuolo as the defensive coordinator. He was with the Giants when they upset the Patriots. And then, on offense, they got Bieniemy, who, I'm sure he feels a little bit miffed that he didn't get a head coaching job, but the guy's going to get there. This offense is going to stay electric. And so every year he's going to be in that conversation. He's just got to be patient. He's going to get that opportunity. And so, other than coaching, we flip it down. We look at the quarterback. We know Mahomes is fucking a rare breed, to say the least. And I'm not just saying that because I'm drinking some rare breed here. But he was number 2 in terms of passing yards. He had 38 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, which was good for a quarterback rating of 108.2. And so I know we talked about Rodgers having this freaking crazy, phenomenal year. Mahomes was pretty far up there too, and we know that. I mean, that's just how he is. The dude is fucking clutch. Uh, I'll just kind of check in with you before I go on here because you're reading intently. Should I
All
keep
right. So,
going?
no. So I found the list of the rematches.
Okay.
This is the fourth time that a rematch involved Brady.
Okay.
So 2000, both times they played the Giants
Oh no.
were rematches of regular season games. So, and I looked it up, and the current scheduling format started with the 2002 season.
Okay.
So in 7 and 11, they played an equal number of the same
Opponents.
same opponents.
Common opponents. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, same common opponents. So the rematches were 2011, 2007, 2001, 99, 94, 93, 90, 86, 85, 83, 81, 80, 77. So it was Cowboys, Broncos in 77, Eagles, Raiders in 80, 49ers, Bengals in 81, Redskins, Raiders in 83, Bears, Patriots in 85, Giants, Broncos in 86, Bills, Giants in 90, Bills, Cowboys in 93, 49ers, Chargers in 94, Titans, Rams in 99, Rams, Patriots in 01, Giants, Patriots in 07 and 11.
Gotcha. Okay. Good to know. That's why I got you on the show, James. You pull that shit up on the fly. It's good stuff. Okay, I was talking about Mahomes. Obviously, he's like otherworldly. That's why he's the $500 million man now. And now looking at some of his weapons, you know, uh, he's got Kelsey, top tight end in the league, number 2 in receiving yards. The dude had 1,400 yards this year and 11 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, his top receiver, who was like in that top 3, 4 in receiving yards for a while, kind of tailed off at the end. He ended up finishing 8th on the season. Still impressive. Almost 1,300 receiving yards. The dude had 15 touchdowns, man. And so, I will say this. The one thing that concerns me, we talked about Sammy Watkins earlier. Looks like he's, trending towards playing. And this is another one of these ones, kind of like the kicker thing. I heard it, but I don't have the stats. But I did hear that the team without Sammy Watkins is actually significantly worse on offense, which kind of blew my mind because Sammy Watkins on his own is not a difference maker by any means, but there's something about his combination with the rest of the guys on the field that just makes it that much harder for defenses, apparently. And so, if I can find that, I'll bring it up one of these days. But I just thought that was interesting. So I'm hoping he plays because we want to see these guys in peak form. That's going to give us our best game here. And I can see you punching the keyboard, so I'm guessing you're looking it up right now.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. So
This was another one. I'm almost positive I heard it on NFL Network one of these mornings watching the show. but it might have been
Yeah,
last week.
like I thought I remember hearing that, and I was like, I meant to look it up earlier, but anyways, go on with what you're saying.
Um, well, I mean, that was it. I was just going to move on to my next set of notes here,
Okay, so
which I can if you're
there's
reading.
three. No, there's three MVPs on this Kansas City. I'm sorry, not MVPs. Three probable Hall of Famers.
Yeah,
When you look at Mahomes, you look at Hill, probable. Kelsey's definitely a Hall of
yeah.
Famer. So you have two definite probable. Um, you have Le'Veon Bell, who if he can get back to his old form even a little bit, he can make a difference. Edwards-Helaire is an up and coming star, and we'll
Oh yeah.
see what happens with him ultimately. But I mean, shit. I was so high on him coming into this year that I traded away a first and a third round pick for him, and
I
of
know.
course he got hurt, and then they got um, they got Bell, and
Everything
it,
changed. Yeah.
everything changed, and but still he's a phenomenal talent.
Yeah, and I guess let's talk about the running backs for a minute. So yeah, Edwards-Helaire, he looks like he's ready to roll. I know he had been banged up a little bit in the playoffs. He should be the primary back for this game. But the thing is, it's very deceiving because this offense is like all based on the passing game. And so, Edwards-Helaire finished the year 19th on the ground with 800 yards. And like you said, they got Le'Veon Bell there too. So it's basically a running back by committee type of situation, which is like a perfect situation for Le'Veon Bell. I mean, the dude went from being arguably the best running back in the league when he was with Pittsburgh to one of the worst starting running backs in the league when he was with the Jets. And now he's on a fucking Super Bowl squad. Yeah, if you're going to like find a way to reclaim your career, this is where you do it. I just don't know how much he's going to contribute if Edwards-Helaire's healthy. But you do get a combination of guys that they can be a difference maker, even if it's only in a small chunk somewhere in the game.
Yeah. So one interesting stat with when you look at the running game here is Darrell Williams has obviously carried the bulk of the load for them this postseason. Um, and he's averaging 65 yards a game, which
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
but
and shame on me for not mentioning him. You're right. I mean, that's.
and but the thing of it is yeah, I agree that they're huge in the passing game. But one of the things in an Andy Reid offense is you look for the running back underneath.
Oh, yeah.
And
LaShawn
and
McCoy, Brian
Sean
Westbrook.
McCoy,
Yeah,
fine.
back in
Exactly,
those Philly
exactly,
days. Yep.
exactly. They've only thrown two
Kareem
passes.
Hunt.
They've
Sorry, I'm
only thrown
interrupting you.
two passes to a running back
Yeah.
this entire postseason. And I mean, which you get that game going. I'm sorry, five passes. My fault. I was
Maybe
looking
maybe
at
this is where they switch it up. People
you.
people been not paying attention to it. Now we're gonna hit you with it.
Right. You get that going on the team, and part of that could be because of the fact that they do a lot of that's underneath, and to play against Mahomes, you have to kind of spy Mahomes, so you have an extra a linebacker staying there looking for shit like that. But if you look at the regular season, in 13 games, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 54 targets, and
Hmm.
he was the leading on the rushing side. So that's what 13, 54. That's four targets a game,
Yeah.
four and a half, whatever. So, I mean, just for him alone, they've basically thrown they basically threw one game's worth in two games in the
Yeah.
postseason, and it's just you get that going, and that makes this offense scary. On top of that, with Mahomes, Mahomes is, like you said, he's a rare breed. He's a special quarterback. He can, like, it's basically how I like to play the passing game in Madden. Just drop the guy back, keep running back and running back and running back, and then just chuck it.
Yeah.
Like he could run back like 40 yards and throw a perfect pass in the end zone. Like he's ridiculous. Um, he's he would have his season would have been top tier and potential and MVP worthy
Yep.
if it for what Rodgers had. He had 38 touchdowns, 6 interceptions,
Yeah.
and almost 4,800 yards, and that was in 15 games, not 16 like Rodgers. It's just absurd what Mahomes can do.
Oh yeah, man. The guy's a freak, and he's so young. I mean, we're looking at some pretty incredible football for a long time here with these young up and coming quarterbacks. You know.
Yeah, but that's also why Kansas City said, we just got to tie you
10,
up for
10-year
for
contract. Yeah.
for 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 the rest for a good chunk of the rest of your career because we can already see you're who
Yeah.
we thought you were.
Yeah. Just don't get hooked on coke or do something stupid, and it's going to be a great decade. That's basically what they said to the guy.
Exactly.
Okay, so before I jump over to the defense, I do want to talk about the COVID thing, which we kind of touched on earlier. So, wide receiver Demarcus Robinson, center Daniel Kilgore, they got exposed by the team barber, which is a total bummer. But I got to tell you, I like that the team did that because basically what they were saying is, hey, we're going to test a guy, we're going to vet him, make sure he's good, or so they thought, and try to control, from having the players just go out and do their own thing and take whatever kind of risk that you have less control over. And I thought it was a really smart thing to do. It's just too bad it didn't work. And, now, they're keeping their fingers crossed that these guys play. Uh, and whether they play or not, like we talked about, they haven't been able to practice, which sucks going into the Super Bowl. But that's the fucking COVID year for us.
Yeah. So a couple things about this. I agree with you in principle that the team, bring the barber in, have him go through our COVID protocols, the 5 or 6 days of negative tests, then let him in the facility, et cetera, et cetera. Except for one thing. Demarcus Robinson's close contact potential exposure to the barber was not at the team facility.
What? I didn't hear that.
It was off-site the night before.
Like he had a special
Yeah,
arrangement to get his hair cut?
exactly. It
Oh,
wasn't.
so
It
there's always
was.
more to the story than, yeah, that's,
It wasn't at the team facility. When they found out he was cutting Kilgore's hair when they got the results of the rapid test, and Kilgore said he was like half done. He said, "Well, if you really have it and I'm exposed, I'm already exposed. So finish cutting my hair."
oh, shit. Yeah, he didn't want a botched haircut.
Yeah. So, but this could have been a lot worse situation for Kansas City
Oh, for
because
sure.
if you read the reporting on it, there were 20 players, including Mahomes, that were lined up waiting for a haircut.
Could you imagine that if Mahomes couldn't play in the Super Bowl because of COVID? I mean, it would
Oh,
just be like, what the fuck are we doing? Like,
it would
really?
go from the best QB matchup probably possibly in the history of the Super Bowl to the
Yeah.
worst QB
Oh,
matchup
what? You'd have two
possible.
U of M quarterbacks, though. How often does that happen?
True,
Henny
true.
and Tom Brady?
I, 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 I will give you that. Another thing that I wanted to touch on the offense is they're starting two backup tackles.
Yeah, that's right. Eric Fisher's out, tore his Achilles. Yep.
Yeah,
And and then yeah, and they had what's his face that opted out. I mean, their offensive
yeah.
line, they've done a great job for the adversity that they faced this year.
So so if you look at where um, a lot of the pressure came from in the Green Bay game, the Green Bay Tampa Bay game 2 weeks ago, It was from Bakhtiari's spot. Bakhtiari was out. They had the backup in there,
Okay,
and Tampa Bay was exploiting that. Exploiting that. I think if that starts happening, and the difference between Kansas City and Green Bay is Green Bay didn't adjust to what was going on in the field with that. If you
gotcha.
have if you have Kansas City and they're getting a lot of pressure from the tackles, you're going to have Kelsey or the wide receiver on that side chipping on the end before running out to his route, which may change the timing of the plays.
Yeah, yeah, that could be a huge factor.
But then again, with Mahomes, I'm not really. I think Mahomes, while Rodgers is mobile, Rodgers is not Mahomes
No, no,
mobility.
no, no. Yeah. If there's a way to adjust, you got to believe the Chiefs are going to figure out how to do it.
Yeah. So I'm not as concerned about it with Mahomes, but it's just something interesting that I found is that's where all the pressure came in the Green Bay game was against the backup tackle that took tackle. Yeah. But no backup guard. Yeah, whatever.
Bakhtiari, I think no, he's their tackle.
Yeah, I was right the first time.
Yeah.
I second guessed it for some reason. But from the backup tackle spot, and they were getting the pressure there. So you could see the same thing happening in this game, and but Mahomes can will probably handle that better than Rodgers did, which based on how great of a player Rodgers has been and avoiding sacks and making the plays, he's still not Mahomes when it comes to that. And
Oh yeah.
Mahomes will
Yeah.
has there's it doesn't really give me a worry.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. No, it's important to point all that out, man. It definitely is. Um, okay, well, let's talk about the defense. So for Kansas City, honestly, it's like hit and miss. You got some guys on the defensive line. Chris Jones, 7.5 sacks this year. Frank Clark, he's there. He's a force. The linebackers and most of the secondary, I'd say, are more along the lines of like the blue collar players, not like super flashy. But they got Tyron Matthew in the secondary as a safety. He had 6 picks this year, and he is definitely an impact player on that defense. This defense, man, I tell you, for a lot of like lesser known guys, I mean, they got like Bashad Breeland, but like their secondary has played really well. And they like even just this last game against Buffalo, super tight coverage. I mean, most of that game, they were like on it, man. And it just to me, like we've seen this with Kansas City all year, where they've been kind of streaky on defense. They have some games where they look good, some games where they don't look so good. It looks like right now they're like leaning towards looking good, but I don't know. It's kind of like they're like a flip a coin kind of defense in my opinion, man.
So with with Kansas City's defense in the postseason, they're allowing 215 passing yards, 120 rushing yards, uh, total 366 yards per game. In the regular season, they allowed. Make sure. Yeah, okay. They allowed yards per game. There we go. 236 passing, 122 rushing, 370 total. So their defense has stepped up a little bit in the postseason, which they did last
Yeah,
year as well.
yeah.
Interceptions, they had average an interception a game in the regular season, and in the postseason they have an interception a game. So that's kind of staying level.
Okay.
So it seems like their defense in the postseason is playing better than they did in the regular season.
It does seem like that. Yeah.
Which I mean it that's
Yes,
how
is
they
yeah, as the year goes on, the defense typically catches up, That's kind of how it
yeah.
goes.
In the regular season they allowed 22 and a half points per game. In the postseason they're allowing 13.7. Like
Yeah. All right, well, here, let me give you my stats on the matchups, on the common matchups, and, just in the season in general. So, Kansas City on the season, they've averaged 29.61 points per game, and they've allowed 22.39 points per game, which is giving them an average margin of victory of 7.22 points per game. But when you look at the common opponents with Tampa Bay, they're averaging 28.67 points per game, slightly less. They're giving up 26.11 points per game, which is significantly more, for a margin of victory of only 2.56 points per game. I point this out because, like we were saying earlier, Tampa Bay and Kansas City played in the regular season. Kansas City won that game by 3 points. When you look at how they've played against their common opponents, everything would scream that Tampa Bay is the better team. Tampa Bay is beating common opponents by almost 12 points a game, whereas Kansas City is beating those same opponents by only 2.5 points a game. And I know it's not that simple, but if you try and do as close to an apples to apples comparison as you can, it looks to me, at least in this one analysis, Tampa Bay's a better team here, man.
So I thought that going into the year that Tampa Bay was the better team.
What? I'm not like saying you did or you didn't. I'll tell you this: all week I had it in my head that Kansas City was the better team, and then it's like all of a sudden, like I'm getting these like last pieces of information, and I'm like, holy shit! I think Brady's going to win number 7. Like it's just my own revelation here, I guess. Let me put it that way. I'm not like calling you out. I'm just saying that I think a lot of people are assuming it's like Mahomes' time now, but I don't know, man. I think Tampa Bay, there's a lot there, dude. There's a lot there.
So a couple key games in that you mentioned in their common games. So you had the Vegas games for Kansas City, who allowed
Yeah, in Vegas, they got a win over Kansas
30
City.
they allowed 31 and 40 in the two games. And Tampa Bay allowed 20 in the one game. So I mean, it's just with these division matchups, it's kind of hard to compare those, because those teams, you play each other twice a year. You're familiar with the team. Also, the Atlanta game kind of skews that for New Orleans, because it was week 16 and they played uninspired football in that game.
Yeah, yeah, no, very valid point. And we've talked about that before. Those divisional games make it tricky. I'm just, me, like the whole year I've been doing my model. I try and kind of boil things down to a number. And this was like the best way that I could kind of get to like more of a statistical kind of analysis where you could say that's as close as I can get it to apples to apples.
Yeah, no, and I understand that. So my thing, couple of things you look at it. I had mentioned this is the 14th time that um, there's the rematch in the Super Bowl of a regular season game. Of those previous 13 matchups, the team that won the regular season game has won 6 of them. So it's
Okay.
pretty much 500 in that. Also with Brady, he's been in 3 such games. He's 1-2.
Yep. Yep. Well, maybe
The
this is
only
where he gets even.
the only one he won was the first one against the Rams. He's lost the last 2. Also, Mahomes and Brady head to head are 2-2, 2-2 against each other, as we talked about a little bit last week. Um, Brady's obviously 6-3 in the Super Bowl. Mahomes is 1-0. It's just I was diving into all these random stats trying to find an edge somewhere. Is it the fact that Spagnuolo beat
Yeah, beat
Brady
Brady the one time. Yeah.
the one time when they met in the Super Bowl, or Is it the fact that Tampa Bay's at home, so they're dressing in their own lockers? Is it
Yeah.
like I could everything in this game is it's so even to me.
We're overthinking it, man. We're overthinking it. It's because like all year long we had 16 games a week where you couldn't overthink any of them. And now it's like right now we're like we got to look at every little thing. Don't leave any stone unturned, check out every piece of information. And really at the end of the day, man, it's just like information overload is what it is. Uh, but I don't know. As long as it's a great game, that's all I care about, man.
Yeah, and I I I agree. I think it's just like it's probably going to be one of those games. Which, by the way, if we had to do the tiebreaker, I would have picked tails for the coin toss
Okay. Good to know. I'll let you make
because
note of that and tell me
because
how it turns out.
tails never fails.
Oh, tails never fails. I like that.
Um, you're looking at everything I'm seeing. It's this game's going to be 30-26, some combination in the low 30s to low to mid 30s, high high 20s to low 30s.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything I'm seeing on that. I don't think it's going to be that much of an offensive matchup.
You think the defense is going to come up big, huh?
I think the defense is going to come up big
That'd
in
be the
these games.
shocker, man. That'd be the shocker.
I think the defense is going to come up so big in this game that the MVP of the Super Bowl is going to be a defensive player.
Sean Murphy Bunting, Central Michigan, pick six.
I was I was between Devin White and
Yeah,
Bunting
Devin White would be a sweet one too. Yeah, I
for
like
my
it when the
MVP.
linebackers get the action. Yeah.
I was looking at those two as the probable MVP of my probable MVP of the Super Bowl,
Yeah, because I guess with
which
Devin
tells
White,
you who I'm picking.
yeah. Well, all right. Well, here. All right. Let's just cut to the chase, James. Question of the week time. Okay. Easy enough. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? I kind of already told you. I think Tampa Bay is going to get it. I was originally leaning towards Kansas City, but after I did all of my analysis, I'm going Tampa Bay. I think the GOAT gets number 7. Why don't you lock it in here? What's your pick, man?
Mine's Tampa Bay. I picked it at the beginning of the season. I
You're riding it all the
nothing.
way.
I can't go against the pick at the beginning from the beginning of the season. And I shouldn't have gone against it 2 weeks ago when I picked the Bills to win, even though I picked that matchup to be taking place in Kansas City and had originally thought Kansas City was going to win.
Yeah.
This was my Super Bowl matchup at the beginning of the season. I think this game is you're looking at like 17-14,
Yeah, a lot tighter than people think. A lot lower and a lot tighter. Yeah.
14-10. It's going to be a low scoring game, I think. I think I agree there's going to be a defensive touchdown, and that defensive touchdown is what's going to seal the game.
I mean, I tell you what, I could see, like you're saying, Devin White being the guy because he had the 9 sacks and linebackers are all around. So you could see him getting at least a sack in this game and potentially even a pick in this game. And if it's a defensive game, that's the guy, But it's
Yeah.
it's still tough to make that happen. But it's just out of all the people out there, he could be the one that's in position to do it.
Yeah, and so those are Devin White or Murphy Bunting's going to get a huge interception late in the game. It's going to be a pick six, or it's going to be close to a pick six, and they might get knocked out of bounds at the 1 or 2 yard line, but it's going to basically seal the game, and that's how Brady is going to beat Mahomes, and then
Gotcha.
come back next year because Brady's talking about playing past 45.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, hey, if he stays like healthy like this and just finds a way to keep it going, what the hell, man?
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what he said. He's like, if you, I heard bits and pieces of it, but what it boiled down to was in this league, you don't know when it's going to go. When it goes, it goes. I'm going to play till it goes.
It's a good way to do it. I like that approach more than the Brett Favre. I'm retiring. No, I'm not retiring. I'm retiring. No, I'm not retiring. Oh, just kidding. Oh my God, like 8 times. Like just retire, man. Or
He
just,
just Favre wanted out of Green Bay, and
yeah,
that's the only reason why that shit happened.
yeah. I mean, but then on the other end, I guess on the other side, like the Peyton Manning thing, that was so ridiculous. Like, how did he win a Super Bowl when like he couldn't even throw the ball 20 fucking yards, man? Like I just so it's tough. But everybody's got a different way of doing it, and Brady, he's still playing like fucking top notch. So,
Yeah,
you know, and that's the other thing. How the hell can you bet against Brady, man?
exactly.
It's
Exactly. You can't bet against Brady. Like I mean, before 28-3, I
oh
can make
yeah.
the argument.
Yeah.
After 28-3, no.
No, no way, man. Okay, so for anybody who's watching, that's our question of the week. Tell us who you think's going to win the Super Bowl, and definitely hit us up for name that stadium. James, that's pretty much all I got for tonight, man. You got anything else you want to hit on before we shut this thing down?
No, I think I hit all my points that I had come up with throughout the week.
Cool, man. I thought it was productive. I thought we hit a lot of good information going into this game. And next week, I guess we got to figure out what the agenda is going to be. We'll obviously we'll do a Super Bowl recap, but we might want to sprinkle something in on top of that just to kind of fill in some time. But we got a week to figure that out. So let me know your thoughts this weekend.
Yeah, I'll have time. So should have some time to think about it this weekend. I should probably get to my store to look at their whiskey selection. I got distracted again this past Saturday and with other things going on, and it's like, oh shit, I never actually got around to it.
Yeah. Well, hey, the ball is in your court for that. You let me know when you're ready, and we will square up. But I hope you get something nice, man. So just keep me posted there.
All right, will do.
Awesome. And hey, maybe on Sunday, I'll for sure hit you up. We'll text or something. Maybe we'll try and do something like, are you going out at all, or are you just sitting at home for the game?
Fuck no. Or
Yeah,
have
I mean, I'm not messing around, but you never know. Um,
having a Super Bowl party of two.
Yeah, well then, hey, maybe I'll virtually tag in. It'll be three of us. So,
All right, sounds good.
let's see what happens. But yeah, man, hey, I will catch up with you in a bit. It was a good time. Anybody who's still watching, give us that thumbs up. Hit us with some comments. If you really like it, hit the subscribe button. We're doing this shit every week. So, Gridiron Grinder, hard hard hike. All right, James, catch you later, man.
All right, good to later.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.